Game 1 was supposed to be a chance for Indiana to shock the league. Instead, it turned into a storm of outrage that had Fever fans demanding answers. From the opening minutes, it felt like the referees were dictating the game more than the players. Lexi Hull, known for her relentless defense, was matched up against Atlanta's star, Rhyne Howard. Hull stayed in front, contested shots, and forced tough looks. But instead of being praised for clean defense, the whistles kept coming. Fans watched in disbelief as she racked up fouls for plays that looked textbook. The breaking point came when Howard drew yet another call, one that even neutral viewers labeled soft at best. Social media erupted. Twitter threads exploded with phrases like, "The refs are stealing this game," and "Indiana is getting robbed." Clips of the calls spread like wildfire, sparking debates about whether the officiating had crossed the line from inconsistent to outright unfair. And it wasn't just Hull. Kelsey Mitchell drove hard to the basket multiple times, absorbed heavy contact, and got nothing. Meanwhile, on the other end, the Dream seemed to benefit from every whistle. To Fever fans, it felt less like a playoff game and more like a stacked deck. The outrage wasn't confined to the stands or the internet. Head coach Stephanie White finally snapped in the second half, voicing her frustration directly to the officials. Almost instantly, she was hit with a technical foul, a punishment that only confirmed what Fever supporters already believed. The referees had no interest in giving Indiana a fair shot. By the time the final buzzer sounded, the Fever's players looked defeated, not just by Atlanta, but by the feeling that they never had a fair chance. For a fan base that had waited over a decade to see playoff basketball again, it was a bitter pill to swallow. But in sports, anger can turn into fuel. And as the Fever prepared for Game 2, that fire wasn't just alive, it was raging. Heading into Game 2, the Indiana Fever weren't just battling Atlanta, they were battling doubt. Critics said they had no chance without Caitlin Clark. Others pointed to the injuries, reminding everyone that the Fever were missing 5 key players: Clark, Sophie Cunningham, Sydney Colson, Chloe Bibby, and Arie McDonald. Half the rotation gone before the biggest moment of the season. The question wasn't just can they win, it was can they even compete? Inside the Fever locker room, head coach Stephanie White set the tone. She didn't sugarcoat the situation. "We've got to play with urgency. We've got to play desperate," she told her team. It wasn't about perfection. It was about effort, grit, and making Atlanta feel uncomfortable from the very first possession. The pressure was enormous. Indiana hadn't won a playoff game in over a decade, and now they were staring down elimination without their star. Fans were nervous, analysts were dismissive, and Atlanta smelled blood in the water. But sometimes, it's when a team has nothing left to lose that they become the most dangerous. The Fever weren't just playing for survival, they were playing for redemption after the way Game 1 ended. And when the ball tipped in Game 2, Indiana didn't just respond. They came out swinging.
Took the screen. Back to Boston. Mismatch against Aliyah Gray, and she buried it. Biggest lead of the night. And it's taken away by who else? Mitchell. Lexi Hull buried it to beat the buzzer. The flourish at the end of the third quarter for Indiana in a game they have to win, and they're up 15.
From the very first possession of Game 2, the Fever sent a message. This wasn't going to be a repeat of Game 1. Kelsey Mitchell attacked early, drilling her first jumper and setting the tone. Aliyah Boston followed with a powerful finish inside, muscling her way through Atlanta's front court. And just like that, Indiana had a rhythm. The most shocking part? Atlanta never recovered. There were 0 lead changes, not a single tie. From tip-off to the final buzzer, the Fever controlled the game. It was their first wire-to-wire playoff win since 2002, over 2 decades ago. The defense was suffocating. Indiana locked down the perimeter, holding Atlanta to just 1 for 10 from 3 in the first half. Every possession felt like a grind for the Dream, while the Fever played with a freedom and urgency that had been missing in Game 1. On the sidelines, Caitlin Clark was on her feet, clapping, yelling, and rallying the crowd after every big play. Even in street clothes, she was part of the fight. By halftime, it wasn't just that Indiana was winning, it was how they were winning. Confident, aggressive, and completely in control. And the crowd inside Gainbridge Fieldhouse fed off that energy, roaring louder with every bucket. This wasn't survival, this was domination. But who were the players who made it happen? That answer came in the form of a few unforgettable performances.
Now this one on Lexi Hall got me riled up because this was early on in the game, and this was probably the best defense that Lexi could have played. If you watch this play here, Ryan Howard is going down, Lexi Hall's guarding her, Ryan goes behind her back, Lexi doesn't touch her because she's backpedaling the whole time, she has her hands straight up. Like, this is really good defense that Lexi played here.
And they have allowed her in their half-court sets so far to just take open drive to the rim. There's the three. And fans didn't appreciate how good Kelsey Mitchell is, and they're certainly getting an eyeful this year. Here she goes. She's guarded by Petty, takes it right to the basket and misses. It's a hit for Mitchell.
If Game 2 belonged to Indiana, then the spotlight belonged to its stars. Kelsey Mitchell was unstoppable. With Caitlin Clark out, the offense ran entirely through her, and she delivered with 19 points. She attacked off the dribble, knocked down jumpers, and played with the confidence of someone who refused to let her season end. Every time Atlanta threatened a run, it was Mitchell who silenced it. Beside her, Aliyah Boston reminded everyone why she's considered the future of the franchise. Boston chipped in 15 points, controlled the glass, and dished out assists that kept the offense flowing. When the Fever needed a steadying presence in the paint, she was there, muscling through defenders and setting the tone physically. But it wasn't just the established stars. Role players rose up when it mattered most. Natasha Howard brought grit and toughness, anchoring the defense and grabbing key rebounds. She didn't just play hard, she played mean, setting the edge that Indiana desperately needed. And then came the surprise spark, rookie Michaela Timpson. In just 9 minutes, she scored 9 points, including a pair of momentum-swinging threes that had the crowd on its feet.
Great job! That was a masterclass on the defensive end of the game. Hell yeah, ladies! Hell yeah! It really was. It really was. I mean, I'm so proud of you. Stepped up to the challenge, back against the wall, and our back is against the wall every fucking game. But y'all, look, I'm proud of you. We ain't finished though, right? We ain't finished. KK, way to be ready. Yeah! The second half, your aggressiveness, it was a difference maker. What it opens up with the gravity that you create is huge for us. You gotta stay aggressive. Hell
Her confidence was infectious, proof that even the youngest players could shine under the playoff lights. Finally, there was Lexi Hull. After being at the center of controversy in Game 1, Hull found her redemption moment, burying a buzzer-beating three to end the first quarter. The arena exploded. That single shot didn't just add 3 points to the scoreboard. It flipped the emotional tone of the entire series. Together, these performances built a wall Atlanta couldn't climb. And the Fever, once counted out, looked like a team reborn. But one name still loomed large over it all: Caitlin Clark. She wasn't on the court, but her presence was impossible to ignore. Caitlin Clark may not have suited up in Game 2, but make no mistake, she was everywhere. From the opening tip, Clark was on her feet, clapping, shouting, and pulling her teammates into huddles after every stoppage. When Kelsey Mitchell buried a tough jumper, Clark was the first to jump and celebrate. When Michaela Timpson drilled back-to-back threes, Clark waved her arms at the crowd, urging them to get even louder. Her energy wasn't just for show, it mattered. The Fever fed off it. Fans inside Gainbridge Fieldhouse fed off it. And even the TV cameras couldn't help but cut to her reactions, knowing her presence was just as much a storyline as the action on the court. For Clark, it was a different kind of challenge. She's used to leading with the ball in her hands, directing traffic, and deciding the outcome with her shooting. But in this game, her leadership came from the sidelines, encouraging, motivating, and reminding her teammates that belief doesn't stop when you're injured. Social media lit up with posts like, "Caitlin's still carrying the Fever even in street clothes," and "She's the heartbeat of this team." It was clear, even in a playoff game she couldn't play, Caitlin Clark was still the face of the franchise. And maybe that's what made Indiana's win feel even more powerful. They didn't just prove they could win without her. They proved they could win for her. But after the celebration on the court, it was what happened in the locker room that showed just how much this game meant. When the Fever stormed off the court after Game 2, the celebration didn't end. The locker room was electric. Shouts, laughter, and a sense of relief that hadn't been felt in years. But in the middle of all the noise, it was Aliyah Boston's voice that cut through. Boston called the performance a masterclass on defense. reminding her teammates that their identity wasn't just scoring points, it was making life miserable for their opponents. She praised Kelsey Mitchell's toughness, Natasha Howard's grit, and Michaela Timpson's spark, but she also made one thing clear. This win wasn't the end, it was just the beginning. Her message was simple: don't be satisfied. One win doesn't erase a decade without playoff success. One dominant night doesn't guarantee survival. If Indiana wanted to truly change its narrative, it had to carry this energy into every single game. For fans, hearing Boston's words was a glimpse of what the Fever are building. A future where Clark and Boston aren't just stars, but co-leaders of a team that refuses to back down. It was a reminder that Indiana's rise isn't about one player or one game, it's about culture. And as the Fever packed their bags for Atlanta, they weren't just riding the high of redemption. They were carrying a new identity, gritty, resilient, and hungry for more. But the real question lingered: could they take this fight on the road with everything on the line? With the series tied, everything now shifts to Atlanta. And suddenly, the pressure isn't on Indiana, it's on the Dream. After stealing Game 2, the Fever flipped the narrative. They went from an injury-riddled underdog to a team that looked tougher, hungrier, and more connected than anyone expected. Now, Atlanta has to respond. Playing at home is supposed to be an advantage, but after getting embarrassed in Indiana, the Dream will be feeling the weight of expectation. For Indiana, the formula is clear. Kelsey Mitchell has to keep attacking, using her scoring to break Atlanta's defense. Aliyah Boston must stay out of foul trouble and continue anchoring the paint. And if Michaela Timpson or another role player can spark off the bench again, the Fever will have a real shot to shock the league. But it's not just about X's and O's. This game is about identity. Can the Fever turn adversity into fuel one more time? Can they prove that Game 2 wasn't a fluke, but the start of something bigger? Because if Indiana walks into Atlanta and wins Game 3, it won't just be a playoff upset. It'll be a statement. The Fever are back, and the rest of the WNBA better start paying attention. For over a decade, Fever fans waited for a moment like this. And in Game 2, their team delivered, not with Caitlin Clark lighting up the scoreboard, but with grit, teamwork, and a refusal to fold under pressure. The win was bigger than just evening a series. It was proof that Indiana is no longer the easy target it once was. Even shorthanded, even without their superstar, the Fever showed the heart of a team determined to write a new chapter. Caitlin Clark may have been in street clothes, but her presence was undeniable. Kelsey Mitchell rose as the offensive engine. Aliyah Boston stood tall as the leader, and the rest of the roster reminded the league that sometimes the strongest statement comes when no one believes in you. Now, with everything riding on Game 3, the Fever aren't just chasing a playoff win, they're chasing respect, redemption, and the chance to shock the entire WNBA. And if this game was any preview, then one thing is certain: Indiana isn't done yet.